The rain poured heavily that night, drumming against the cracked windows of Emily Parker's small apartment. Inside, Emily sat at her kitchen table, balancing overdue bills in one hand and a half-empty cup of coffee in the other. At 28, she was a single mother raising her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, on tips from long diner shifts. Every day was a battle to keep the lights on and food on the table. Before we start, welcome to InspireTube, stories that move, motivate, and inspire. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a life-changing journey. Now, let's dive into today's story. That evening, as she walked home from work with a bag of discounted groceries, she spotted a figure sitting hunched beneath a bus shelter. His jacket was worn thin, his shoes soaked through, and his face pale with exhaustion. Something about him stopped her. He wasn't panhandling or begging, just sitting, staring at the ground with empty eyes. Emily hesitated. She barely had enough to feed herself and Lily. But when she saw his shivering hands, she sighed, reached into her bag, and pulled out an apple. "Here," she said softly, placing it in his hand. The man looked up, startled. His eyes were sharp blue, filled with both weariness and gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. Emily smiled faintly. "Take care of yourself." She walked on, never imagining that this small act of kindness was about to change her life forever. The next morning, Emily returned from dropping Lily at school to find the same man outside the diner where she worked. This time, he wasn't hunched or hopeless. He stood straighter, his gaze searching until it landed on her. "You," he said with a faint smile. "I wanted to thank you properly." Emily frowned. "For the apple." "For seeing me," he replied. He reached into his pocket and handed her a card. Embossed in silver letters were the words, "Daniel Whitmore, Whitmore Enterprises." Emily blinked. She'd seen that name before, on news articles about billion-dollar mergers, on billboards downtown. Surely this was a mistake. "I don't understand," she said. Daniel's expression softened. "I wanted to know what it felt like to be invisible again, to see who would notice when I had nothing. Most people walk past. You didn't." Emily stared at him, stunned. "You're saying you're a billionaire?" "Yes," he said simply, "and I don't forget kindness." At first, Emily dismissed the encounter as surreal, but curiosity tugged at her until she finally visited Whitmore Enterprises. The skyscraper towered over the city, gleaming with glass and steel. Inside, marble floors and polished brass reflected a world far from her own. When the elevator opened on the top floor, there he was again, Daniel, no longer ragged but poised in a tailored suit, the city skyline framing him like a portrait of power. "Emily," he greeted warmly. "You came." She shook her head in disbelief. "So it's true. All of it." "I told you I'd prove it," he said gently. That day, Daniel offered her something she never expected, a job. Not a token desk role, but a meaningful position helping manage his company's community outreach program. "You've lived what so many struggle with," he told her. "That gives you a perspective money can't buy. I need people like you on my team." Emily hesitated. Pride told her to refuse, but Lily's hopeful face came to mind. Her wish for a room of her own, for a life less burdened. And so Emily whispered yes. At first, Emily felt like an imposter. Surrounded by polished executives in sharp suits, she clutched secondhand blouses and worn shoes. But soon she found her rhythm. She coordinated food drives, spoke with struggling families, and partnered with shelters. Every time she saw gratitude in someone's eyes, she remembered her own years of scraping by. And slowly, the exhaustion that had defined her life began to lift. She still worked hard, but it was purposeful now. Each night, Lily noticed the difference. "Mom, you smile more now," Lily said one evening as Emily tucked her in. Emily laughed softly. "Do I? Yeah, you used to look worried all the time. Now you look lighter." Emily kissed her daughter's forehead. "That's because things are finally getting better." Through it all, Daniel was never far. He encouraged her, sometimes teasingly brought her coffee, and often joined her at outreach events. Emily began to see him not just as a billionaire, but as a man who cared deeply about people. The turning point came at a charity gala hosted by Whitmore Enterprises. Emily had never been to anything so grand. Chandeliers glittered overhead, Gowns swept across the floor, and conversations buzzed with wealth and influence. She almost turned back, certain she didn't belong. But then Daniel appeared in a sleek tuxedo, his presence commanding the room. When his eyes met hers, his expression softened instantly. "You look beautiful," he said. Emily flushed. "I feel out of place." "You're not," Daniel assured her, offering his arm. "You belong here more than most." Throughout the night, Daniel introduced her to powerful guests, not as an employee, but as someone important, someone he clearly respected. Emily was stunned by the way people shifted when he spoke of her with admiration. Later, standing with him on a balcony overlooking the glittering city, she whispered, "Why me, Daniel? Why go out of your way for someone like me?" He held her gaze. "Because you reminded me who I am. Not the billionaire, not the businessman, just a man, and I don't want to lose that." Her heart fluttered with something she hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Months passed. Emily and Lily moved into a safe, cozy home. For the first time, Lily had her own room, painted yellow with shelves for books and space for dreams. Emily often stood in the doorway at night, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, the constant fear of tomorrow finally gone. Her work blossomed, touching countless lives through food drives, scholarships, and shelter support. She often thought of the chain reaction that had begun with one apple on a rainy night. One evening, Daniel invited Emily and Lily to his home for dinner. As Lily chased fireflies in the garden, Emily sat with Daniel on the patio under a sky of stars. "You've changed my life," she whispered. Daniel shook his head softly. "No, Emily, you changed mine first. You reminded me that kindness is the greatest wealth a person can have. Everything else is just numbers." Lily ran up to them then, breathless with joy. "Mom," she asked innocently, "are we a family now?" Emily's throat tightened. She looked at Daniel, who smiled with quiet certainty. "Yes," Emily whispered, pulling Lily close. "We are." Emily often reflected on how quickly life had shifted. She had once been a struggling single mom, invisible to the world. Then one act of compassion, so small she barely thought about it, had opened a door to love, stability, and hope. Her story wasn't about luck or fairy tale endings. It was about the ripple of kindness, about how the smallest gesture, given freely, can transform a life. And in the end, Emily realized that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or power. It's measured in love, in compassion, in the family we build when we dare to care. Because that rainy night, when she gave a stranger an apple, she hadn't just fed a man. She had planted a seed that would grow into a future beyond anything she had ever dreamed. A stranger became a friend became family, and kindness became the bridge to everything. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to InspireTube, where powerful stories come alive to inspire your journey.